guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. Today's video is going to be my labor and delivery birth story for my third baby. Her name is Isla and she is 4 months old now, so this video is long overdue. I've been meaning to sit down and film it since the day she was born. And if you have missed my previous videos, you will know that she's very colicky, very difficult. Doesn't let me put her down very often, so that's why it has taken me this long to actually sit down and film this for you guys. Being said, if you're curious how my story went, then just keep on watching, guys. That may happen. My 6-year-old is outside playing because I had to go pick her up for a doctor's appointment today, so she came home with me, got out of school early, so you may hear that noise. And also my 20-month-old son is asleep in his room, so you may hear him wake up too. Hopefully we make it through, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. So rewind 5 months ago, 4.5, because she's just turned 4 months. But so at my 39-week checkup with my OB, I went in, I was getting weekly checked at that point, and I went in to see my doctor. He checked my cervix. I was still only 1 centimeter dilated. I was not effaced at all, nothing. And he's like, you know, there are other methods, ways to help try and induce labor naturally. One being sex, the other one being medical induction, and God. Those are the 3 options that he gave me, guys. So believe you me, we were trying everything to help this baby come out, and it was not working. So he said that we could come in that night and not necessarily get admitted, but just get checked into the labor and delivery room and get a couple doses of the prostaglandin gel. So we went in that night, got my first dose, and if you're unfamiliar with this gel, you get it inserted vaginally, and then you have to stay in bed for an hour, and then after that you can get up, do whatever you need to do. So I got my first dose at like 12:31, something like that, and had to stay in bed, and didn't really feel too much. I mean, I felt kind of uncomfortable. I felt like my stomach was cramping a little bit, but nothing serious, guys. So then 4 hours went by. You have to wait 4 hours in between each dose, and another 4 hours went by. So then I got my second dose, and then I had to wait in bed for another hour, and then get up and do whatever you need to do, go to the bathroom, whichever. Which, if you've ever stayed in a hospital or had a baby, you understand that you don't get very good sleep because the nurses are constantly coming in, readjusting the monitor, just bugging you, waking you up. You know, you don't get good sleep. So that night, pretty much, I only maybe got an hour or 2, if that, of sleep. But the gel actually did help me a little bit. It dilated me to, the doctor said, a 2 to 3 centimeters. So like a stretchy 2, I guess you want to say. And it effaced me to 50%. So he gave me the option to stay and be induced because I was 39 weeks, or I could go home and try and get things going on my own. And if you guys are new here, that was my end goal, was to get labor started on my own. I wanted to go into labor naturally on my own, and unfortunately that's not the end of the story. Just wait. But my children don't like to come out. I apparently just have such a cozy, warm environment for them. They just like to stay in. So I called my husband that day, and I ran across, you know, all the information to him. He's like, well, babe, it's up to you, whatever. He's like, if you want to go ahead and get things rolling, like, I will come in, you know, we'll get everything going. I was like, no, like, Adri had a school party going on that day. I was like, I'm just gonna leave, I'm gonna go to that, and then hopefully like things will start going on their own. So I left, and I was still contracting. not painful, just very, very uncomfortable. Went to her school party. I was 39 weeks pregnant, huge. It was basically the middle of summer. It was hot, and I was contracting through the entire thing, guys. I was so uncomfortable. Not to mention, I was very, very swollen and just awful. Like, pregnancy and myself just don't mesh well. So anyways, me and my husband tried everything to get this baby to come out. Nothing was working. So another week went by, and at my 40-week checkup, I went in to see my doctor again, and he checked my cervix one more time. Still was at the same 2 centimeters, only 50% effaced. Nothing was changing, and I was just uncomfortable. I was having Braxton Hicks like daily, all day long. Like I said, was extremely swollen, just so uncomfortable. Couldn't breathe. I couldn't even sleep anymore at this point. I was miserable. And doc's like, you know, we're at the due date. It's your choice, whatever. I said, I'm gonna keep going. So we went, I think it was 4 days, yeah, because I went to my appointment the next Wednesday, and that was a Friday. So I went like 40 weeks in 4 or 5 days, something like that. But I went in for my next checkup, and exactly the same. Nothing had changed, guys. So at that point, I felt pretty defeated, and I was just done. I didn't want to go a week and a half over like I did with my first baby, and I just pretty much said screw it. So at 40 weeks and 4 days, 5 days, I think it was 4 days, we made the choice to go in that night at midnight and be induced. We tried another dose of the gel. Not much changed the first dose, and the second dose again 4 hours later, and then I think I was effaced to 75%, guys. Like, my body progresses through labor so slowly, and thinking that this would be my third baby and like my body would just know what to do, but it didn't. So hold on a second. The next day at 7 a.m. doctor came in and checked me, and I was still at like 2 to 3 centimeters. I think it was 2 centimeters dilated still, and then I was 75% effaced. So a little progress, but not much. Then again, another 2 hours, doctor came in and checked me, and I had progressed to 3 centimeters, still 75% effaced. And he's like, okay, we're progressing, things are moving. So we kept upping my Pitocin, which therefore making contractions worse. Progressed from a 3 to a 5 from, I think, 9 o'clock until noon. Yeah, at noon. I was at 5 centimeters dilated, still 75% effaced, and that's pretty much where I stayed. So doctor kept coming in throughout the day, every 2 to 3 hours to check me. Kept upping my Pitocin. At one point, my cervix started to swell, and if your cervix is swollen, baby's not going to come out very easily. So doctor gave me the option to get some Benadryl through my IV, and I had never had Benadryl through an IV before, so this was a completely new experience for me. And so what had happened, I was sitting at, like, you know, sitting straight up in this type of position, like in the bed. They put the back of the bed completely up, and so then apparently my neck was down like this, and I was just kind of sitting here like this. So whenever your head is down, it basically just goes straight to your head. I guess I'm not for sure completely 100% about that, but I felt like I could taste it in my mouth, and that was awful. It was terrible feeling. I immediately just got dizzy, lightheaded, felt like I was having the worst panic attack of my life. Like, I couldn't breathe. I was just sheer panic, you know, and I'm trying to like not like freak out because I'm just laying there, and they finally lay me back, and I'm just laying there, and I feel like I'm completely out of it. Like, Caleb, my mom were both there, and if you ask them, they said that I just completely just zonked and like took off. Like, I wasn't even in my body anymore. So I don't know, at like 20 minutes, finally I came back around, and the Benadryl helped with my cervix finally, but we stayed at a 5 Like, that's where I was at the entire day. And her heart rate kept dropping. Every couple hours, you know, they would come in and they would readjust the monitor and they would check. And, you know, they're like, doctor kept coming in, you know, talking about possibly doing a C-section. And Caleb's like, you know, babe, this is your choice. Do whatever you feel is right. And I said, well, you know, as long as baby's doing okay, then I would like to continue. So doctor said that was fine. And, you know, her heart rate just kept decelerating. So, you know, they were a little concerned that maybe something was wrapped around her neck, something wasn't right. It was around 3 or 4 when I got my epidural because I was just in awful pain. I tried to push through and I couldn't do it. Around 12:30, 12 o'clock, I think it was midnight, I started to feel my contractions really, really, really bad again. I felt like my epidural wasn't, like the little button that they give you, it wasn't helping me at all. Like I felt like she was coming out and I was in awful pain. And like to the point, you know, like where like you're crying every contraction and you can't talk, you can't do anything because it's just that painful. And so they called the anesthesiologist. He came down to check my epidural site, you know, check my medication and see if I needed to get another dose of the epidural medication. And he checked my site and the catheter, I guess, had slipped out, not all the way, but like 3/4 of the way or something like that. So he's like, I'm gonna try and give you another dose and see if this works. If it doesn't, we're gonna have to reinsert it again. So I'm like, okay. So he gives me another dose of the medication. I can feel my legs going numb, but I'm still feeling the contractions like times 100. Like I'm just screaming and I'm just like crying every single contraction that's coming and it's just miserable. And I'm just laying there like, this is not right. Like something's wrong. Something's going wrong, you know, like she's coming. I was just beside myself really. But so he's like, that should kick in about 30 minutes. 30 minutes go by and my legs are just numb and I'm feeling everything. Like he's like, okay, well, he's like, we're probably gonna have to reinsert the catheter. And I was like, no, like I'm feeling a lot of pressure, like something, like I feel like she's coming out. And so they go get the nurse comes in and she checks and she's like, huh, you know, that tone, huh. And I'm like, okay. I was like, maybe she really is coming out. Is she already out? Like I was, the things that were going through my head was just crazy. But she's like, I'm gonna go get my charge nurse and see what she thinks. I was like, okay. So she goes and gets her charge nurse and she comes back and she checks me and she's like, sweetie, that's baby's head. And I was like, yeah, like I could have told you that, but anyways. So they call a doctor. He's like, I'll be there in 5 minutes because he wasn't in the hospital at the time. And that's just when, not chaos, but just like everybody, you know, knows what to do. So everybody just starts doing immediately what they need to do and prepping the room and getting me prepped, getting stirrups up and everything. But at that point, I felt like I needed to push and they're telling me to wait for doctor. And that is, honestly, I think that was the worst pain of my life. Just having to hold her in and not push until doctor got there. But I made it through. Doctor finally came in and he's like, yep, there's baby, like I can see her. And so he's like, you know, go ahead, ready, like whenever you're ready, let's just go ahead and like whenever you feel a contraction, start to push. And if you missed my labor and delivery birth vlog, I will link that below. Definitely check it out because we did get to record the audio. We couldn't record the video, but Caleb did get the audio, so you'll hear the doctor say like, okay, contraction, and I'm like, yeah, it's go time. And so I pushed and he's like, that's great, like just do another like that and we'll have a baby. And he wasn't joking. So another contraction came and I pushed again and he's like, I mean, if you hear him count to 5, I think it was, he told me to stop pushing at that point because the cord was wrapped around her neck. And so when he pulled her out, he got the cord off. She was completely fine. Nothing was wrong with her at all. But I pushed her 3 separate pushes and she was out in like, I think Caleb and I counted 58 or 59 seconds. She was out in less than a minute. So I was right. I knew that she was coming and I knew that it needed to happen. But the funny part about the entire story was as soon as she came out, because this was, you know, the surprise gender, we didn't want to find out until birth. And so when she came out, Caleb actually announced it. If you hear in the video, he announced that it's a girl, and I was out of my mind because I was 100% sure that it was going to be a boy. Like, I was just set that it was a boy because there's no girls on Caleb's side and the male is the one who determines the sex. And I just felt like it was a boy. So he's like, babe, it's a girl and she's so beautiful. And my first words were like, it's a girl, what the and the doctor kind of even giggled a little bit. I can't even believe like that I actually said that, but whatever. I mean, I was in a lot of pain. I was just done with it. And I was in utter shock that it was a girl. I was so sure it was a boy. Anyways, I didn't tear at all. I didn't get any stitches with her, which was awesome. It made recovery just 10 times better. I wasn't sore at all. Going from like a stage 2 or 3 episiotomy with my first Adri, and then like probably a stage 1 with Aiden, I tore externally and internally with him. So yep, my first labor I was cut. Second labor I tore a little bit, and then this labor I didn't tear or have to be cut. And the recovery time for all 3 of them, my second one was the worst, the absolute worst. And my third one, like, I was up and walking that night after my legs came back to alive, you know, because I felt every single thing. Like, my legs, basically from like the tops of my legs down to my feet were numb. That's all the epidural did, was numb my legs. So not being able to feel my legs and having to push was great. But anyways, so I was up and doing my thing once my legs came back alive, and it was awesome. Like, I didn't feel hardly any pain. But I think that's what I get because the pushing her out was easy, but then the baby is very, very difficult. Because, like I have said, she came out screaming and she's been screaming ever since. But I think we're finally getting to that point where things are getting a little bit better. She's getting to the point where she has more good days than bad days. But it's neither here nor there, and I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that things just continue to keep getting better. We will see. But anyways, that's pretty much the gist of my story, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's kind of crazy, and if you guys are interested, I could sit down and I could tell you my labor and delivery stories from my daughter, who is 6, and my son, who is almost 2. But if you are interested, definitely let me know. You know, comment down below and let me know, and I will definitely film something like that for you guys. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up my labor and delivery story with my 3rd baby, Isla. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure that you're hitting that thumbs up button, and then don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!